Awesome. All right. Sometimes people might want to re-listen to something, especially today, because one of the things I'm going to be talking about today is your leadership paper and how you can go about writing that. So it may, in fact, prove useful for you to go back and revisit that part of the meeting recording, possibly. I don't know. It's up to you. Always your call, right? So let's do a quick roll call because I'm not seeing a number that says we're all here. So I need to just get a sense of this. All right. So Lauren.
Here.
Awesome. Connor.
Here.
Sweet. Jake.
Here.
Yep. AJ.
Here.
Joe Corno.
Here.
Joe DePasquale.
Here.
I love all these names. These are the greatest. Claire.
Here.
Sweet. Bryce.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
Kyle.
Here.
Lexi.
Here.
Sam Hoffman. Going once. Going twice. All right. Max.
Yeah.
Chloe.
Here.
Clay.
Here.
Tiana.
Here.
Sam Martinez.
Here.
Monica.
Here.
Gerardo. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Lindsay.
Here.
Sam Schmitz. Sam Smitch. Yep. Okay. Mason.
Here.
Katie.
Here.
Nick.
Here.
Evan.
Here.
And Dave. I see you, Dave. You just need to.
Here.
There you go. Sweet. Thank you, everybody. And thank you again for assuming that you can do so, letting me see your faces. It's so hard speaking into trying to teach without seeing people. So I appreciate it. I know it's a little odd, but we could do this, right? We got this. So how's everybody hanging on? How are we doing? Talk to me. You can unmute and just tell me what you're thinking. How you doing? Be bold. Yeah? Going stir crazy yet? Yes? No? Easy? You're hoping to stay under quarantine forever? You're living your best life right now? That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing people are pretty happy about this. Yeah?
No, quarantine sucks.
There we go. Quarantine sucks. Okay. In the chat, number one thing you don't like about quarantine. Let's see it. Something you don't like about quarantine. Oh, yeah. Everybody, you got to read these. These are great. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. 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 I hear you. Oh, it's great when people refer to each other. Having to be with the same people 24/7. I don't care how much you love these people. It's kind of crazy, right? It's kind of, especially if you're in pretty close quarters. I mean, again, I'm really fortunate that I'm in the house that we have is one that we had, we bought with 3 kids and, all their stuff and everything. And now there's just 3 of us here with my husband and son and I. And so we've got lots of space, thankfully. I feel for those of you who are in much closer quarters. And I think, one of the things that I've noticed or that I'm trying to be really attentive to is with my son, for example, he's an adult. I mean, you're all adults. And for parents to not fall back into the pattern of treating their adult children as children is tough, right? So one of the things that I've done, for example, when he was a kid living here, of course, I did the laundry. I love to do laundry, which is weird, I know, but just go with it. Think about whatever you do that you enjoy that other people might think is weird. But I asked him, okay, do you want me to do your laundry or not? And he said, no, he wanted to do his own. So hands off. I'm not treating him like a child. You know, if he were to ask me to, I would happily do it because again, I enjoy it, but it's hard. It's really hard. Not being able to see your friends. I was just texting this morning with two super close friends of mine. We don't live near each other. So we rely on virtual communication most of the time, but we also had planned spending a week together in June, and that we're not going to be able to do that now. And that's really hard. It's not ideal. So I can tell you, and I will tell you later, I have some inside scoop on what St. Norbert is thinking about doing for the fall. So there's your reason to hang on to the call. I have this inside scoop based on a meeting that I was in yesterday. Again, I have I don't know if it's the distinction, perhaps the dubious distinction of currently being the chair of the Faculty Advisory Council, and next year I will be the faculty chair. Ooh, doesn't sound so exciting. What's good about that is it gives me, I hear about things while things are still being discussed, as opposed to only hearing about things once the decisions have already been made. And that's a positive. So I'll share some of that with you just to give you a kind of a hint about what might be forthcoming. Maybe that will at least alleviate some of the uncertainty. Not that answers are all firmly decided yet, but just to give you a sense of what people are thinking about. All right. So working our way through our agenda. Nobody brought their pets today? You got to understand something. I have 2 cats, but I love dogs. I have my Facebook feed set up. I have subscribed to so many dog pages that even though I have almost 1,000 friends, I also spend most of my time scrolling through dog pictures. Is there anybody else who loves dogs as much as I do? Yes. Some of you, yes. Why am I not seeing your dogs then, people? I want to see the dogs. All right. This is not too much to ask. All right. Get your dog at some point in the next hour. Let me see that dog. All right. I bet all of us would like it. I think dogs should be allowed on campus. Who agrees with me? Some of you might be like, oh, there we go, Patrick. Now, I understand some people might be allergic. I get that. But there should be some place where, oh, there we go, Connor, thank you. There should be some place where people can have dogs, where students can have their pets. I know that some students have, I don't want to get the phrasing wrong. Is it emotional support animal? Is that the right phrasing? That seems right to me. I know that some people have that, which is great and really important for them, obviously, for a variety of reasons, but I think we should all get to have them. Okay. Oh, look, see? Now, tell me, people, the rest of you who can see other folks with their puppers, isn't that nice? It's nice to see them. Okay, great. So you have the agenda for today. I'm going to work my way through it. Let's start by doing a quick review of Chapter 6. Now, one thing I want to emphasize again is how important it is to watch the ever-exciting narrated PowerPoints. And I'm going to come back to that point when I talk about the exams. It's a lot easier. I think it would be easier to have watched those and then to listen to me do some of the highlights than the reverse. Whatever, it's your life. You watch these things whenever you want, but you don't want to not watch them because I do talk about things that I haven't typed out. I try not to make the PowerPoints too text dense. So there's actually quite a bit that I don't include on the PowerPoints or in the lecture outlines that you'll want to be listening to. All right, Chapter 6. 5 things I want to highlight. Ready? Let me fire it up. Okay. Number 1, the key point of the chapter. the number one point of the chapter, the number one thing that I want you to remember about motivation, period, is the following. If we want people to be motivated, then the most important thing that we have to do as managers is to give them a good job. That's the number one thing. I can't emphasize that enough. Now, of course, we have to pay people a living wage, right? This is Herzberg's two-factor theory, where we've got these hygiene factors, these base things that have to be true. People have to get paid a decent living wage. Otherwise, that's all they can think about. If they're not getting paid a decent wage, they're going to obsess about the fact that they're not making enough money because we have to pay bills, right? A simple point here. We have lots of people very upset right now because we're closed, right? Because many people are not able to go to work. I'll tell you what, if they had been getting paid a living wage and they had 6 months of reserve cash, like financial advisors suggest, they would not be as worried about the fact that we're closed for 2 months in the state of Wisconsin, at least. Is everybody tracking with me? People must be paid a living wage. And there are no excuses for people not being able to be paid a living wage. This is one of the richest countries in the world. The money is there. Somebody's making it. Okay? So people have that. They have to have safe working conditions. Again, this is Herzberg's two-factor theory. Basic foundational things. It's got to be true. Okay? And then, if you want people to choose to be motivated, we have to give them a good job. And we know what it takes to create a good job. It's known. It's not a secret. It's not something mysterious. So I want you to keep this in mind. When you are observing people who aren't motivated at work, first question, are their basic needs being met? In other words, are they working in safe, clean, secure working conditions? Are they making a living wage? And then, what's their job look like? How is that job designed? Okay. Clear? Making sense? Yeah? Okay. Second major point, page 2. My all-time favorite motivation theory. Favorite? Not because it's perfect. There's no such thing. There are no perfect theories or models. There's a great line from a guy whose last name is Box, in which he says, essentially, no models or theories are perfect, but they all have something to offer, okay? What I like about job characteristics theory, or the job characteristics model, my favorite, is that it tells us the 5 things that we need to incorporate in jobs in order for those jobs to be motivating. It's like the recipe. Starting with, I'm going to run down these really quick because I think they're so important. Skill variety. People have to be able to use more than one or a very narrow set of skills in their jobs. Otherwise, we get bored, right? And think about some of you, I know you've had jobs. I know you've had jobs as teenagers, as college students, where you felt like there's so much more that you could offer. They're asking so little of you in terms of your cognitive skills, for example. You find yourself getting bored. I mean, that's not okay. So you want to look for a job where you get to use a lot of different skills. So important. Second, task identity. You need a job where you can see how what you do contributes to the whole. You need closure, basically. You need a sense of my job serves an integral purpose. Now, this is different from being significant. This is about being able to see how what you do contributes to the next step, the next step, the next step, and comes full circle. All right? People need to be able to see the role that their job plays. And then it's task significance. People need to feel like what they do matters. Otherwise, it's super easy to call in sick, right? When you're just not feeling it, you're like, it won't matter if I show up or not. It doesn't make any difference. You have to feel as though what you do matters. It's important. I'm sure you've seen the memes running around talking about how, one of the, I guess, positives of this pandemic is more people realizing just how important people like those working in grocery stores are. How people that, frankly, our society tends to devalue in terms of the salaries that we pay them and so on, the respect that we might proffer, they're actually really important, right? All the artists who, thank God, have made movies and television shows for us, these folks are making our lives better, okay? So recognizing that people need to feel as though what they do matters. Those three things together, skill variety, task identity, task significance, allow people to see their work as meaningful. Human beings must feel as though what they are doing is meaningful. I've said this from the time that my children were very small, when they were just toddlers. Everybody wants purpose. Everyone wants to know that they're contributing to something bigger than themselves. Those of you who've been on athletic teams, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say what it's like to be part of something big, something that you couldn't do by yourself, and knowing that you're making a contribution to that. So meaningfulness matters. Then you've got autonomy. This is the ability to make decisions about what you're doing and how you're doing it. When people have a high degree of autonomy in their job, they feel ownership, which of course means they're going to do their best to make sure that whatever they're doing is good. They're going to exert a high degree of effort. That's what motivation is, right? They're going to exert a high degree of effort because they want things to go well. It's important to them, not because the boss said so, not because it's written down in some organizational mission statement, but because they feel personally responsible. They know that they're making decisions that affect other people. And the last one is feedback. People need to know how they're doing so they can adjust, so they can do a better job. Okay, you put those 5 things into a job, you're going to have highly motivated people. And as a result, they're going to perform at a high degree. They're going to be satisfied. They're going to be less likely to be absent. They're going to be less likely to quit. They're going to be less likely to engage in deviant behavior. And they're going to be more likely to engage in organizational citizenship behavior. A good job, a well-designed job yields so many positive outcomes. I suspect, but you can weigh in on this in the chat, I suspect that a high number of you, perhaps all of you, feel as though your future should include a well-designed job. How many of you would agree with me? Put it in the chat. This is important to you. I want to see it. Plug in. Here we go, right? Here we go. I mean, thank you. Now, yeah, absolutely, Tiana. Let me come back to that. I don't want to lose that thought. So Tiana's she's asked a great question. I want to before I get to that, I want to say one thing. As far as I could tell, everyone wants a good job. We all want a well-designed job. I don't know anybody, I have never met anybody who feels differently. Ever. I've never met anybody who felt differently. So the challenge for us as managers, future managers, which you will be, the challenge, one of the challenges for us is to figure out how to make sure that every single job is a good job. From the lowest frontline job to the top. What can we do to make sure that every single person has the opportunity to have a good job? No, none of this, well, some jobs just suck. No. There are always aspects to jobs that suck. Okay? Frankly, recording narrated PowerPoints is not the most exciting thing in the world for me to do, as I'm sure you can imagine. But it's an important part of what I'm doing. Are you with me? So it's not about trying to create jobs where there aren't any aspects of the jobs that are less than exciting. It's about trying to create jobs where the preponderance of what people do helps them to feel like they matter. Everybody tracking with me? And it is absolutely possible to create jobs that fit what I've described for you. So let's go back to Tiana's question. Can this relate to how a class is designed for students with assignments and such? Okay, Tiana, I'm going to ask you to come on and tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking about there, so we can engage some other people in this conversation and answer that question. So if you want to come on, tell us more what you're thinking about.
Well, when we were like discussing the job characteristics, I just kind of felt like that related to like, because being a student is kind of a job in itself. We have
Yes.
tasks we need to commit. We have a boss technically.
Mm-hmm.
So like when thinking of feedback, like some professors don't give a lot of feedback and some do. Autonomy, sometimes we're able to choose the type of work we do, the type of books we read. And then like task significance, like if I feel like my work, it doesn't have any meaning, it's not gonna really motivate me to do it. Along with like task identity and skill variety. So
Okay. So I thought that's probably where you were going, but I wanted to make sure.
yeah.
So thank you. So what do you all think about this? Do you think that professors, for example, would benefit from seeing this model and thinking about how they might design the student's job in their class? Tell me what you think. What are some thoughts on this? You can unmute, talk. It's not like all 20 some people are trying to talk at the same time. So you can just go ahead. What do you think? Joe, go for it.
Specifically with task significance, if there's a class I'm in that doesn't seem that important, like out in the real world, if I feel like I'm never going to use the skills, then I'm not really as inclined to listen or try.
Do other people feel the same way? Yeah, I know that's how I felt when I was a student. You know, whenever I'm participating in anything, that's honestly one of the things I think about. Am I going to be able to use this? You know, and if the answer is no, it's just like, I start to kind of check out, right? So I would agree. Some other thoughts on this. Tell me what you're thinking about. Is this stuff that professors would benefit from thinking about as they design classes, as they design your role as a student? What do you think? Be bold.
I definitely think that professors would benefit because, and like with skill variety and stuff, a lot of my classes have like the same schedule. It's just like a lecture every day and then specific set of homework. So it gets really boring.
Okay.
And I think if we were doing different things, it'd make it a lot easier to pay attention and find it more exciting.
Fair point. Fair point. How about other folks? What do you think? You can agree, disagree.
I
other
agree.
idea?
Especially with the feedback. Like I had a teacher that we had a paper, and she said that she would have them graded after 2 weeks, and then it took her like 2 months to get it back. So I just got it back right before my second paper was due, so that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, especially when you've got a follow-up task that has similar or same requirements, right? It's nice to know, well, did I do it right? Was I on track? Did I give you more than you needed? Not enough, etc. Yeah, I see it. I get it. I get it.
I think it kind of depends on the class.
Okay.
Like I know some of my friends that are more on the science major sort of thing.
Yeah.
They don't have as much autonomy in some classes. Like,
Okay.
you know, the obviously like the set of rules they have to follow is very strict for like in terms of safety or the procedure that they have to follow. But like skill variety, I mean, obviously they have to do that. So I think it depends on what the class is, and then the professor can kind of see, you know, what can I allow more in this classroom and what, you know, what really isn't really like, what really can I do? That's just part of this.
That makes sense. Other thoughts? Anybody else want to chime in on this? Time goes faster when it's not just Lucy talking. Anybody else? I think this is really important. Frankly, I do think that many of my colleagues would benefit from perhaps a bit more reflection on what they're asking you to do as followers, what your job in that particular class is. Another thing that's difficult for us faculty to think about, you know, we have the one class that you're taking with us, but we don't necessarily know what you're doing in all of the other classes. And we don't know what the expectations there might be. And we don't know what the deadlines are. Is everybody with me? So we're sort of operating in with some uncertainty and a lack of knowledge. So that can also make it difficult for us to create experiences that are ideal, or at least striving to be ideal. I know that even in this class, which is, you know, just a 2-credit class, I try to think of different ways for you to show me what you know, right? I mean, we got a discussion board, which hopefully isn't too much in terms of time for you. The topic infographics allow you to explore some other skills. You know, you write a paper, you do some exams. Within the exams, I try, with those questions, I try to, as much as possible, give you the opportunity to talk about personal examples, things that actually matter to you. Make it a little bit easier for you to show me that you understand the material. But there's also a point where I think it's too much. Like there's too much stimulus, too much variety. So there is, and people can start to feel overloaded, not just because of the quantity of the work that's being asked of them, but also all the different kinds of work that are perhaps being asked of them. It's a challenge. The other thing that makes it difficult, and this is true also for managers, is that, like in this class, there are 27 of you coming to the class with different needs, different experiences, different skill levels, and trying to create experiences that will be positive for all of you is a challenge. I think that's true for all faculty, but it's a challenge that we face as managers, right? Trying to figure out what's going to work best for our followers. Regardless, I think it does matter. And I'm going to give you a hint. If you haven't already looked at the exam, the next exam, thinking about this stuff is part of what one of the questions focuses on. Okay. Third of 5 things I want to talk about. On page 3, SMART goals. SMART goals. Another thing that the exam talks about, SMART goals. So let's make sure that we're all on the same page and that we understand this well. Why do we set them? Why do we set goals? Why is it important to set goals? Well, because they relate directly to effort. Choices we make, that's the direction piece. How hard we work, that's the intensity piece. The degree to which we persist, right? So those are the 3 key elements of effort: motivation and Specific, measurable, aggressive, realistic, and time-bound goals help us to be motivated and therefore to perform at higher levels. And when people set goals that don't meet each of these characteristics, they are less likely to achieve those goals. And as a result, they are less likely not only to not perform as well, but also to be less satisfied, which ultimately, as I talked about in the very beginning, remember way back when? That's a key thing that we care about. We care about people being satisfied. This matters. It's important. For you, I would ask you to think about the goals that you've set for yourself. And if you haven't done so, you should. Not for every aspect of your life necessarily. That's not critical. But maybe especially now where we're in this weird sort of surreal existence, setting personal goals that are smart, that might be one of the things that keeps us sane. Are you with me? Whether it's around your personal fitness, your health, or your schoolwork, or maybe something altruistic where you decide to do something that helps others. Setting those kinds of personal goals can make all the difference in terms of what you ultimately actually achieve and then how good you feel about yourself. So make sure you understand the stuff around goal setting. Next point. Fourth, performance management. Super exciting. How many of you have ever had a formal performance evaluation in a work setting? Chime in on the chat if you have. Where you've been formally reviewed by a boss. Okay, so we have some number of folks, not everybody. Somebody who said yes, please unmute and tell us what that experience was like. Be brave. We're not going to judge your experience.
I
just
can
want to
go.
hear it. Yeah, go for it. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, so I had a performance review over a call with my team leader. So I
Okay.
work at Schneider, and I work in the driver recruiting screening center. So basically drivers call in and I go over their application and make sure that they haven't done anything basically horrendous that would prevent them from moving forward. And my leader just had my metrics for the past month, went over how many calls I made out, how many calls I had in, call conversions where, someone couldn't move forward on a certain position and I sold them to a different position. So just kind of stats like that and what my goals were for the next month.
How much time did that take, Claire? Approximately.
I'm not really sure. I'd say it was around a 30-minute call.
Okay. All right. So not too much time. And, when you were done with that, how'd you feel?
It was good. I mean, it's a pretty typical thing we do frequently. So it's pretty routine.
How frequent-ish?
About every month.
Okay. So that's some pretty frequent feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. Somebody else, share with us your experience. Somebody else who said yes, that they've gone through this. Again, you're not being judged for it. I just want some folks to share.
For my experience, so we get like a formal evaluation like every year for my job. I'm an RA on campus, so at the end of every year we kind of like talk about our performance, but then we also meet with our area coordinator, like mine specifically meets with us every week to talk about anything like we're struggling with. But for our formal evaluation, we each filled out a sheet on where we thought we were on like particular levels for certain things, like how we build community and so on and so forth. And then we meet and we go over like differences and like where I can improve or like where I have already improved.
Okay. Excellent. One more person. from the list of folks who said that they've had a formal performance evaluation? Just one more. We'll wait.
I can go. So
Thank
at
you.
the end of every year, we have an annual meeting with our supervisor and our manager. I'm just a bank teller, so we kind of just go over like the technical things we do every day to see how we did throughout the year. So like how well we balanced our drawer, if we had any variances, what the total cash variances were, and how many days we were off.
Okay.
But then we also focus on like where we want to go in the future. So like a 1-year plan, and then if we plan on staying with the bank for more than a year, what we want to do beyond that, and then setting up steps so that each week when we have a check-in, we can kind of track how we're progressing throughout that career growth.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
It's really great when people basically have like a dashboard that tells them as they're going how they're doing, right? Something that gives them a sense of whether they're on track. One of the things I always say about performance appraisals is that there should never be any surprises. You shouldn't find yourself in a conversation with a boss where you're caught off guard by the feedback that that person is providing to you. You should have a sense before you sit down for that performance interview as to what the person thinks about your performance. I think it's very clear, not only from the job characteristics model, but also from our understanding that many people have a very high need for achievement, that feedback is important, right? People need to know how they're doing. You wouldn't want to go a full semester in a class without any sense of how you were doing. That would be terrible, right? For the reasons that you've already articulated. As faculty members, the kind of feedback that we get is multifaceted, right? So I finished grading your exams, that first exam, and that gave me some feedback on what I've been doing. I mean, I think a lot of times students think exams mostly are just feedback on, what you're learning, but they're also feedback to us as instructors to help us understand how good of a job we're doing, holding up our end of the bargain. We also, this sort of thing, the reason I asked you today, if you've got your webcam, to please show me what you look like, is that frankly, I get a sense of how things are going by being able to see your face. It's really hard when I'm just looking at a letter for you, your first name, a letter. I have no sense of are people tracking? Is the material making sense? So this is very important, right? That's a form of really critical feedback. There's also at St. Norbert the SOOT, right? The Student Opinion of Teaching. So I want to give you a heads up. I promised you some insight. You're going to be asked to complete something different at the end of this semester for your classes, something different from what you typically complete. The instrument will be all open-ended, so it's not about checking numbers or anything like that. It's going to be asking you about your experience in terms of what the professor did to try to facilitate your online learning, what you did to try to facilitate your online learning, what challenges you faced, and how you addressed those challenges, how you dealt with those. The reason that we're doing a different instrument is, well, there are a couple of different reasons. One, asking faculty members to move courses to an alternative delivery mode in a week's time is a big ask. And as I'm sure you have observed from the vantage point of the student, not everybody, not all faculty members are comfortable teaching in this mode. St. Norbert College is not a college where online learning is our primary mode, as you know. Most of the faculty at the college have never taught a course online. They don't want to teach courses online. They specifically took jobs at St. Norbert College because they want the face-to-face interaction with you all. The same as the students, right? Who you all could have gone someplace else to do just online. I mean, those institutions exist, and instead you've picked a campus that's primarily residential, smaller classes, face-to-face, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, So we got the faculty. Okay, in a week's time, folks, turn your classes into something online, which is a huge challenge. This is less than ideal, right? And trying to figure out like how many assignments should we continue to ask students to do, and what kind of assignments. And I think I've mentioned this before. For example, I changed not only the kinds of exams that I give, but I also changed the weight of those exams so that they were worth less toward the overall grade. Just because I imagined that it would be, first of all, difficult for you to take timed exams. I didn't have a whole lot of faith in what everyone's internet access might be. And also, I didn't want you stressing overly about exams. Okay, well, that's me. That was my decision. But I know that not everybody's done the same. So we really want to find out less, did you like the way your teacher put things online, and more specifics in terms of what helped you learn in this way that isn't considered ideal by anybody, and what was tough. And I know that some people, for example, have told me straight up what's tougher, and what's been easier. But I get the sense that not all of you have shared these things with all of your professors. So this is going to be really important feedback for us that isn't going to be used to evaluate us in the traditional sense as faculty members. Normally, the student course evaluations weigh pretty heavily in terms of whether people are granted tenure and promotion and how they're reviewed each year. And for this semester, given the craziness, those evaluations are going to be used more as a learning tool for everyone rather than as an evaluation tool. That makes sense? They may have questions about what that's going to look like for you, or why we decided to go with this. Anything? Now I'm going to ask you, when you get the request to fill these out, please do so for each of your classes. I know sometimes it's, please do so. This is going to be so important. And I'm going to give you a little bit more heads up into, actually, let me talk about one more thing, and I'm going to come back to heads up future stuff. On page 6, last thing I want to talk about. When we do evaluations of people, bias is a real thing, and we have to be very careful about this. For example, do we like somebody? When we like people, we tend to be more generous in our evaluations. Leniency. Are we aware of some particular circumstance that the person is facing that maybe is making it more difficult, more challenging for them to perform at a high level? That can influence how we evaluate them. And then, of course, stereotypes. Faculty members, for example, female faculty members tend to, on average, be evaluated less favorably by students than male faculty members. Lots of research done on this all over the country. And it doesn't seem to matter the topic. Just in general, gender seems to influence how students evaluate their professors. And some of that has to do with, in general, how do people in society, our society, view women versus men, and what do we consider appropriate for them? Let me give you an example. I have been told when I do presentations, I was told in one particular case that I needed to smile more, which I thought was very amusing. I can't ever remember over the entire course of my life thinking that some guy who was a teacher or a presenter or a boss needed to smile more. Ever. I've never thought that. But I know that people expect women to smile. Is that Fair? Do you believe that is out there in the ether? Furthermore, women are expected to be more nurturing, more motherly, if you will. Now, in my particular case, I am a mom, so it is kind of a thing that I do. But not all women are this way, nor should we expect them to be this way. We certainly wouldn't expect all guys to be nurturing. But students in classes often expect female instructors to cut them more slack, the students, because they expect them to be more nurturing. This is interesting, isn't it? Now, what are the consequences of that as we talk about these things? Whether I'm not saying that you necessarily are like this, that's not the point. But imagine, let's just go with that's a fact. Let's just say it's true. Think about how that plays out then in terms of how women versus men as faculty members are evaluated. Now, think about how that might play out in other professions as well, the stereotypes that we have about people and their gender and what we think is appropriate versus not. And what we see then in terms of people being successful in different roles. Certainly in the chapter that talked about leadership, chapter 12, and it talked about women in leadership, there are some interesting things that we might observe in our society in terms of how women are viewed. These stereotypes that we have certainly influence performance evaluations, which in turn influence just how successful people can be. Something for you to think about, okay? Just something to keep in mind. All right, so let me come back to some of the what might be happening very quickly going forward. So, COVID-19, super exciting, right? Some schools have already decided, some institutions have already decided a variety of things. For example, they've already decided to furlough some of their faculty and staff. That means basically a layoff. It could be reducing the hours that they're working per week. It could be reducing their presence for a month or more. Right now, St. Norbert College is anticipating no need to furlough people, which is great news. The reason that they're able to say that right now is that because of cost cutting, a whole host of cost cutting actions, decisions, we are not going to be making money this year. We're still going to be in the hole, but we're not going to be in the hole to the degree that some other institutions are. And this is after refunding people a significant amount of their housing and room and board, which, as you imagine, for a residential campus is a key component in our overall budget model. When you think about budget for a place like St. Norbert, one thing I want you to keep in mind is that most of the money goes toward paying people's salaries. That's how most of the money is spent. So when we start talking about budget cuts, we start talking about people. Okay. So right now we're not anticipating having to furlough anybody. We are fully expecting to come back to an on-campus experience in the fall. That is the plan. However, and this is important, we also anticipate that at some point during the fall semester, we may have to put courses online, not necessarily for the entire semester, but maybe for part of the semester. So you should anticipate that. We are expecting, as I said, to come back face to face. The campus has also done the calculations as to how many people could be on campus, how many of y'all could be in residence, and we could still observe CDC guidelines for social distancing. And so think about how this might work. So you live on campus, dorms, et cetera, et cetera. We've got shared food service, et cetera. Certainly we could stagger the times that people could come into food service, right, the CAF, and then eat, and then, okay, we could shift things around to make sure that y'all are social distancing, not just all of you, but all of us too, faculty like me. Right now, the evidence, the data tells us that for the most part, you all, even if you do contract the virus, are unlikely to have serious medical issues, right? Your age is your advantage. Your immune system is operating, for most of you, at a pretty high level. People like me, on the other hand, not so much. You all could bring it to me. I am unlikely to bring it to you. I might have some serious impacts. You most likely will not. So there's a lot of thought being given to how could we still because this virus isn't going to be gone by the fall. That I can tell you right now with 100% certainty. It's not going to be gone. So knowing that we're going to be living with it, how can we live with it and still do what we want to do? So we are planning to be face-to-face, anticipating that we may have to go online for some part of the semester, anticipating that most, if not all of you, will still be allowed to be on campus. So you wouldn't have to go home to do your online, for that stretch of weeks, let's say it might be a few weeks, you would be able to be where you are, right? You'd still be able to eat on campus, etc. We may have to adjust classroom usage. We may have to adjust how we sit in classrooms, but we think we can figure that out. But here's another interesting thing. There's every expectation that there will be a resurgence in the impact of this virus on people, where we'll have more people sick. Are you with me? So in order to try and anticipate that, the college is also looking at the possibility of an early start or a later start. An early start with the idea that we would finish the fall semester earlier, so that if we do have people who are ill, they would have at least, let's say, 2 months for this to get sort of addressed in the population. And also, perhaps by January, we might be looking at a vaccine for this stuff, right? And of course, between now and then, there will be medicines that will be found that will also be helpful to people. So we might start early. In order to do that and still get in what is required by the Federal Department of Education, some things with our scheduling might need to be adjusted. But then the spring semester would look pretty much like the spring semester always does. I think most people are anticipating that by next spring, we're not going to be living like this at all, like we are right now. Are you with me? That'll be, by next spring, for sure, we should be, fingers crossed, pretty much normal. If we, in the fall, one of the models might be that we have a week less. Again, to try and make sure that we can get the courses delivered, get you all through the fall semester, and then anticipating that we might have this time at the end of the semester where people might be sick, right? And might need to be home. And this way it wouldn't interfere with your classes or anything like that. So the fall semester could end up being a week longer, just to accommodate, because we have to have 30 weeks. We have to, according to Department of Education. And why does that matter? So y'all can get financial aid, which is kind of a big deal, right? So we want to make sure that we can pull this off. But I think fall, we're going to have to be somewhat flexible. Is everybody with me so far? Nothing is set in stone yet in terms of, well, what if we did start early, when would that be? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. Don't think about that. Just understand that whether we would decide to start early or start a little bit later, it'll be because we're trying to make sure that we can have you on campus and keep you on campus until you would take that winter break. Is everybody tracking with me? That's the whole rationale for any changes that we might make. Again, trying to make decisions with a lot of uncertainty. But I want you to know with 100% certainty that the leadership at St. Norbert College wants you all back on campus. All the faculty want to be back on campus with all of you. We want to be back in our regular classrooms. All those things when I asked you, you know, what sucks about this quarantine, we're all in the same place. So we are making plans and contingency plans to make sure that we're going to be able to pull this off. And again, with the anticipation that by next spring, we're going to be looking at a very different world that looks very normal. Okay? This is why it's even more important that when you get asked to fill out that instrument for all of your different classes, that you are clear and specific about what has been challenging for you, what has worked, what you've done to try and make things work better for you, and what faculty members have done. Is everybody with me? We need to know this stuff so that if we do need in the fall, for example, to do 3 weeks online, let's say in the midst of it all, the faculty can know what works and what doesn't work. And until some people see it in writing, they won't necessarily feel confident about that. I invite questions at this point, concerns. Feel free to unmute and talk to me about what I've just shared with you. Positive, negative, anything.
What's your opinion on the idea that we'll go online for a short amount of time during next semester?
I think if I were to lay odds, I'd say it's at least a 50-50 that for some part of the semester we'll have to do some online. And but not, it's not the expectation, and I don't think it's likely that we'll have to do the whole semester online. And I don't think we'll have to start, it could even be depending on in the state of Wisconsin, part of what's going to affect this is when the governor and others decide that we can have public gatherings again. I mean, frankly, we can do our classes as long as it's set so that, it's something like 50 or more can't. Well, we're good to go, right? Because we have less than 50 in class. I mean, we're in much better shape than a lot of other institutions. I think it's okay if we have to do a couple weeks, 3 weeks online. We can all figure that out. We can do anything for 3 weeks, right? We could do anything for a month if we had to in the middle of the semester. As long as we know, hey, we're going to be back face to face. And again, I think what they want to make sure will happen is that you all don't have to pack up your crap and go home in the middle of the semester, because we know that sucks. We know it sucks, and we don't want that to happen. So like I said, we may end up doing some things right from the get-go where we say, okay, we're only going to have so many people in the CAF at a time, and we'll have to work out schedules to make this happen, right? Because we know that you only have so much time in between classes and so on and so forth. So there'll be people working hard to figure this out. The faculty are already thinking about, okay, if this is a reality, how can we pivot to go to online for a few weeks in the middle of it all, let's say. I think faculty we will be much better prepared, quite frankly. And again, we'll have feedback from you all about what worked and what didn't work this semester. And that's going to be hugely helpful to us. Thank you for that question. What other questions, concerns, comments? Talk to me. What are you thinking about what I'm telling you?
So wait, we're basically like hoping, or at least St. Norbert is hoping, that we'll just be on campus the whole year next year then?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that has a lot to do with the size of our campus and where we are located. So, with about 2,000 students, given the distribution of people on campus, the relative lack of density, the fact that we have smaller classes, we're thinking we're going to be on campus. Absolutely. For sure in the spring for the entirety of the semester. For the fall, hopefully for all of it, especially if we can move the schedule around a little bit to try, like for example, maybe to shave off some time at the beginning or the end, Maybe we don't have long weekend. You know, I'd be willing to sacrifice long weekend if it means we could get the whole semester in face to face. Are you with me? Goodbye long weekend. Honestly, if that's the trade-off, goodbye. But yes, that's absolutely the plan. And we think we can pull it off in terms of still complying with CDC guidelines, still keeping you all as safe as you would be anywhere. And then the other thing is the city of De Pere, where we're located, is not a highly population dense area. It's not. We also on our campus, because of the way our campus is set up, we have lots of space. We have ways we can redistribute what we're doing and how we're doing it. So we don't have hallways that are constantly filled with lots of people. Are you with me? So yeah, we think we can pull it off. And I'm telling you right now, the people who are giving thought to this are meeting every single day talking about these things. So, and they're looking at what other colleges are doing. The colleges that you're seeing where they've already sort of panicked decision, they're going to do all online. It's because they're too big. They don't really have options. You know, a UW-Madison, don't be surprised if they end up saying they're going to be mostly online. They have 600 plus person lectures. We're not the same. Thank you for that question. Other questions or concerns, reactions? Is this
Do you know like how this would impact internship courses? Because I'm supposed to have an internship through all of next year.
Yep. So, so the course you mean that you would take?
Yeah, because I have a human service concentration, so we're supposed to get 400 hours in next year.
I think a lot of people are anticipating that most of our community will be open again. There's a lot of pressure to make that happen, and I think it will happen. So I think we're going to see, I would call it probably a slower, but we are, you know, by fall already, we're going to be looking at a lot of those things being normal. Yeah. And I'm not worried about that. I mean, businesses, NGOs, nonprofits are all going to be, they're going to be looking for people. They're going to want those interns. Absolutely. And the fact that, again, we're well positioned because we're a smaller school and I think we'll be able to be residential again. We're going to have people for these organizations, unlike some of the other institutions. We're going to be in a better spot, thankfully. Others, thought I saw some other folks who maybe wanted to comment. Dave, did you have?
Yeah. I don't know how much you can answer this without like actually getting into number values, but how much can the school literally or figuratively afford to not be in person next semester?
Tell me what you're thinking about with that so I can make sure I answer it correctly.
Like how, like the long-term repercussions of not being able to meet face to face, not necessarily financially, but maybe partially, because I mean, like you mentioned, you guys are for sure in the red this semester. So like
we are
long-term outlook, like,
yeah,
what's that looking like?
Okay. So great question. I would say that historically, the way that the college has been run, it's been run pretty conservatively from a fiscal standpoint. So while we will show a deficit for this year in our budget, which you would expect. I mean, again, we're refunding housing, and we don't have people using the children's center because it's closed right now. And I mean, other forms of revenue just not happening. With our endowments, we are in actually good shape. And our enrollments have been good for the last several years, whereas a lot of other private schools have watched their enrollments seriously declining. So I would say, conservatively, we're in good shape. And that is the message that we're getting from our financial folks. They have said that, especially as, for example, the faculty, we will not be getting pay raises next year. That's already been decided. There won't be any pay raises, which I think we all understand. I think we can manage another semester financially that's disrupted. But again, this is also, we're hoping that it won't be disrupted in that if we can keep you all on campus and we can just keep chugging along with the semester, even if we have to do a little bit less face-to-face for part of that semester, well, then we don't have to worry about doing things like refunding housing. You'll still be living there. We don't have to worry about refunding meal plan dollars because you'll still be eating. Actually, it might be even better. It might be that we do things where you could, for example, get stuff delivered to your dorm or house. Shit, that sounds like a pretty cool deal, frankly, for a few weeks anyway. So I think we're in good shape. I wouldn't describe us as so flush that the President Brees is sitting on a pile of cash over in Main Hall. I don't think that's true. But I think that we tend to be pretty prudent, pretty careful about how money gets spent in general. So we're in good shape. That's the message that I'm getting. And I have every confidence that that's accurate. Also be aware that the federal government, AKA the taxpayers of the United States, have, through the CARES Act, made money available to institutions, higher educational institutions, and St. Norbert College will be getting some of that money. Not like billions of dollars or anything, but enough that will also help us to stay in good fiscal condition through this whole pandemic. Thank you for that question. I mean, honestly, as a person who relies on my paycheck, it's really good to know that we're in good shape. Other questions or concerns?
Does that mean that like we probably wouldn't be expecting too high of a tuition raise?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I think that people are very sensitive to the fiscal reality that y'all are facing as well, right? I'm assuming that most of you aren't making extra money during the pandemic, that you're not like, woo, this has been the best thing ever for me financially, right? I'm assuming that your parents and others are also dealing with some perhaps unpleasant fiscal realities. So the school is going to work really hard to keep that as manageable as possible. I'll tell you, the number one thing that influences what has to happen with your tuition is what happens with our health care, our health insurance. And when those numbers go up, that's when, like I said, most of our budget is payroll, people. And when health insurance premiums skyrocket, that's when we have to ask for more. Are you with me? But we also have, you need to know that we have really solid donors who, because of them, we're able to offset for a lot of students what you all have to pay. Maybe not ideal. I get that. It's still an expensive, trust me, I know it's still an expensive venture, but people are working really hard and they have that absolutely in mind, Annika. I would love to be able to say that it's going to cost you less, but that seems unlikely, right? In the world. But at least it may be comforting to know I'm not getting a pay raise. I don't know. So I'm not making money off of all of you. Trust me. Anything else? Anything else I can address right now? Listen, I want you to. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, I don't know if you'd know anything. They originally moved commencement to August 29th, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. I was wondering if there's been any update on that.
That's still the plan. So that is still the plan, followed by convocation the next day. One of the reasons, one thing that may happen is that we may plan to have it outside. In part because when we cram not only the graduating seniors, but their families into the Mulva, it's pretty tight quarters. Outside, we got more room to maneuver. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But as far as I know, that is still the plan. We absolutely want to be able to have graduation ceremonies for our graduating seniors. I mean, for the faculty, it's just as important, quite frankly. For me, the day when you all graduate, it's one of my favorite days. You all have to look at me in my medieval gown, which is gold. You will not have any trouble spotting Lucy when you graduate, when you pick up your diploma cover and cross the stage and wave, and everybody hoots for you. We love that day because that's a great example of task identity. We get to see the end, the closure. Oh, actually, your beginning, right? So that is the plan. And if something were to interfere with that plan, we'll come up with something else that will still satisfy, what I think everybody's hoping for. We know it's a big deal for people. I want to stop right now because I don't want us to run out of time before I finish the other couple things I wanted to talk to you about today. I want you to do this for me, though. If you do have any questions, concerns, thoughts, fire off an email to me. Don't hesitate. Don't worry about whether it's an appropriate question or anything like that. There's no such thing as an inappropriate question around all of this. Don't worry about, oh, she'll think that's stupid. No, I won't. Okay? No, I won't. And can you tell your parents and others these things that I've told you? Yes, you may. That's fine. The details, those aren't out there yet for people to digest because we don't want to end up committing to something too early. Are you with me? We don't want to, for example, like some of these schools that are already saying they're going online. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Okay? We're not going to do that. There's no reason to believe that we'll have to do that right now. So why on earth would we say such a thing? And especially given how much our facilities folks, et cetera, are figuring out how could we still do this safely and have face-to-face. That's our focus. Okay, so let me move on then. The discussion question. I want to quickly share with you my synopsis of what you all did last week. This is the what makes you tick question, because I think you'll find it interesting. I hope so anyway. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. Real quick. Maybe. Okay, can you see my screen where it says what makes us tick? Oh my God, I hope that you had a chance to review what your classmates had to say. I loved reading through all of your responses. First of all, you're all very interesting people. And the things that you find interesting, satisfying, that you're passionate about, I mean, it would be impossible for anybody to read your comments and not just fall in love with you. You are so fantastic. I so love reading your responses to these discussion questions. And again, to reiterate, I'm not jumping in on these discussions because I want you all to have a chance to talk without me, okay? But here's some of what makes you tick. I went through and I basically did a content analysis of all your answers to see what were some of the themes that were coming out, the stuff that makes you all, and think about motivation theories here as you look at this. Accomplishment, achievement. For some of you, being alone is very motivating, right? That would reflect perhaps maybe you're an introvert. Being around animals. Hello, puppers, right? Being around beauty and nature. So many of you talking about canoeing, hiking, surfing. I love it. Being around others, making connections. Whatever you chose, it helps you to feel calm. At the same time, being challenged matters. Think about how this all fits in with Herzberg's two-factor stuff. Those things that really make people choose to be motivated. Competition, for some, compliments, praise, the opportunity to creatively express themselves. Having effective leaders helps. Something that's emotionally engaging, something that helps you to feel loved and respected, something where you can be focused, in the zone, immersed, something that's fun, something that helps you clear your mind. Let me tell you one of the great things about teaching. When I go into a classroom, I can't think about anything else but what I'm talking about. I can't. I have no worries the entire time that I'm teaching. I'm completely immersed in what I'm doing. The opportunity to collaborate with others, the opportunity to learn. Many of you talked about this, to experience something new, the opportunity to master a skill, the opportunity to reflect, that you feel ownership, responsibility. Think about the job characteristics model here. You're good at these things. It's very reinforcing. It's also relaxing. For some of you, it involves serving others. There's stress relief involved, and then of course variety. I'm pointing at my screen here. This is a perfect illustration of all the motivation theories that we've talked about in chapters 5 and 6. This theory of motivation that you all have helped to create is right on point with everything that we know about what motivates people. So thank you. Thank you for that. Awesome stuff. This week, of course, you're being asked to think about, a job. And that relates to chapter 6. So I've started to read what you're writing, and once again, very interesting. All right, the preview of chapter 9. Are you ready? Are you ready? I can't tell if you're ready. Do you look ready? It's all about teams. You know what that means? It's going to be an easy chapter because you have lots of experience with this stuff. Are you ready for an easy chapter? Does that sound appealing? It should sound appealing. Okay, all right. Exam 1. Let me talk about it very quickly because exam 2 is due next Tuesday. Yay. Yay. So I've graded it. You should be able to see your grade in Moodle. If there's anything that doesn't make sense to you, don't hesitate to reach out to me. We can do a quick Google Hangout. We can talk it through. No worries. Overall, awesome job. Awesome job. Here's what I'm looking for in these questions. This is what I want. I want to see that you know the material. So I want you, and I'm often asking you to think of something personal, right? I want to see how you apply stuff. One of the most important things you need to do is label things so that I know that you know what you're talking about. Are you with me? So when you're talking about a theory, make sure you label the parts of your thing that you're describing with the right jargon. That way I know that you know. You don't have to write books to respond to these questions. But if it's only like, these things are worth 5 points and you've only written 5 lines, that's probably not enough, just as a gentle hint. Okay? Those of you doing things like underlining, bolding, God bless you. That makes it easier for me to find what I'm looking for. So do that. You will see with the second exam that it very, very much follows the same kind of format as the first exam. In fact, the questions will look kind of similar. So I asked you with chapter 12 to talk about, for example, some leadership theories. With this one, I'm asking you to talk about motivation theories. Last time, there was some lack of clarity around what qualified as a leadership theory, and so I had sent an email. This time, I have included the theories from which you can choose right in the question. Okay? Again, I'm trying to make this as easy as possible. I will send to you a Word doc that has all the questions, so you can look at it that way, answer them, type up in Word or Google Doc, and then go and slap it into the exam if you want. If you'd rather not try to answer all the questions while you're just sitting there, no worries. Again, the secret is showing me that you can actually relate the material from class, so those narrated PowerPoints and the text, to whatever the question is asking you. Everybody with me? The overall average was about what I expected, right on target, maybe a little high. So overall, really good. Keep in mind, these are only worth 25 points apiece, just like a topic infographic. Okay? I know that you're putting in perhaps more work than you would into a topic infographic. I get that. The reason it's lower weight is just so that you're not stressing too much about, what if you don't do well on an exam? Is that going to kill your overall grade? The answer is no, it's not. Okay? It's absolutely not going to kill your overall grade. And if you want to talk specifically with me about your exam, I'm happy to do that, to give you more pointers about what you might do for this second round. But as I said, most importantly, label stuff, make sure you're showing me how whatever you're talking about relates to the class material. And then, of course, it's important that you not get things wrong, okay? And this is why it's so important to listen to those narrated PowerPoints. I will tell you things that the text might not discuss, things that are not on the lecture outline. I talk about them in the narrated PowerPoint, and you want to make sure that you are paying attention and taking notes from those so that you don't get things wrong, okay? Any questions about exam? Did it seem pretty fair in terms of asking you questions about things that we had covered? Yeah? Okay, that's important. If you feel otherwise, don't hesitate to let me know. Totally cool. Listen, I'm telling you, you're never going to jeopardize your grade by giving me honest feedback. I appreciate honest feedback. I may not agree with you. Okay, whatever. That's okay. You don't always agree with me. So this is only fair, right? No worries. The leadership paper. This is what I'm going to do. We've only got 6 minutes, so I'm not going to try and talk about that now. What I'll do is I'll narrate some scintillating video, in which I will talk more about what I'm looking for in that paper. And then you can follow up with me if you have any specific questions about the paper, okay? You can fire off an email, or we can do a quick Google Hangout, whatever works for you. But I'll do a short, I promise it will be short, video in which I talk through some of the particulars for that leadership paper and what I'm looking for. Exam 2, well, your second topic infographic is due tonight, right? 11:59, bells on. If you are pretty much done and you want a little bit of feedback, send me an email, right? I can give you some quick feedback on that infographic if you want. No worries. Understand I might be doing something else. It might take me a bit to get back to you, but I can do that. Your week 5 discussion questions due tomorrow at 6, not at noon. I adjusted that time frame because somebody had suggested that. And then second exam due next Tuesday, 11:59. Same as last time. Questions? Comments? Concerns? You have survived almost an hour and a half. God bless you for sitting so long. If nobody has any questions, I'm going to set you free, okay? God bless all of you. Hang in there. Only 2 weeks after this week. Only 2. Peace out. See you later, all. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you, Tiana. You too. Have a great day, all. Peace out.